ပြီးခဲ့တဲ့နှစ်ပိုင်းတွေအတွင်းမြေမြုပ်မိုင်းနဲ့ပောက်ကွဲစေတတ်တဲ့စစ်လက်နက်အကျွင်းကြံပစ္စည်းတွေကြောင့်ထိခိုက်ဒဏ်ရာရခဲ့သူအရေအတွက်ဟာ2023ခုနှစ်ထဲကောက်ယူတဲ့စီးရင်စရာတွေအရတော့1300ယောက်ရှိတဲ့အကြောင်း Mine Free Myanmar အဖွဲ့ကအစီရင်ခံစာရေးသားသူဒေါက်တာယေရှွာမိုဆာဖွန်ချူဝမ်က VOA ကိုပြောပါတယ်
Out of the country's 330 townships, 168 may have been contaminated by landmines. The majority of the victims in 2022 were children. The military has planted mines around its outposts, as well as at mobile phone towers, pipelines, power lines, and along the Bangladesh border.
No in Balana Banka Sabi, Sakausi Tadriha, Tasakanteko, Pialen Sakwa, Toa Pidena, Turuta Swekere Yarima, Mimio Maimia Piata Takerelo, Tita Kanka Koyita Pet Tamushi to Ricapioare.
UNICEF reported on Wednesday that the number of civilian casualties, including children killed or maimed by landmines and explosive ordnance in Myanmar, more than doubled last year to 1,052.
In 2023, Myanmar reached an unfortunate milestone. For the first time, the country recorded the most landmine casualties of any country in the world, according to the most recent Landmine Monitor report. Although Myanmar had already seen decades of landmine contamination before the 2021 coup, in the subsequent conflict, there has been a sharp increase in the deadly and indiscriminate use of anti-personnel mines, with children and other civilians suffering the consequences. But even as the threat increases, the country remains severely under-resourced in terms of risk education and support for survivors compared to other conflict areas. In the coming year, Insight Myanmar will be producing an in-depth series titled Navigating a Minefield. The monthly releases will explore the situation on the ground, impacts on survivors and communities, and humanitarian anti-mine action that is changing people's lives. The series will include testimonials from survivors who are overcoming trauma with the support of their communities and a dedicated network of humanitarian organizations. We see these discussions on history, policy, and coordinated action as complementary to the risk education and survivor support that is literally saving lives. More information about the series, as well as risk education materials, are available on the Insight Myanmar website under the Navigating a Minefield section. We're joining a network of media outlets publishing in Burmese, ethnic languages, and English, both in Myanmar and in the diaspora, to raise awareness about the dangers of landmines and explosive remnants of war among at-risk populations. We encourage listeners to share these resources with their friends and colleagues and to advocate for an end to this awful threat.
Shattered Dreams. My name is Go Eji and I live in Myang Township. I am 53, one of 4 family members, including myself, my wife, my son, and his wife. Previously, we received income from our farm, but currently it is difficult to do so because there is a junta base camp about 1 mile from our farm. When the situation is okay, we will go to our farm to work, but when the junta forces come, we have to flee to safety and cannot look after the crops. As a result, the yield of the crops has decreased and our income reduced, and we have barely recovered what we invested. My wife's health is poor, so she can't do hard labor, and my son and his wife don't have stable jobs, so our family is struggling just to have food to eat. Luck was not with me, and in June 2024, around 5 p.m., I heard loud noises. Worried, we went to the village monastery to hide. As we were entering the monastery, artillery shelling fell near the fence, and I was hit. In that moment, I couldn't feel my legs, and all I could see was blood everywhere. At that time, the junta forces were firing non-stop with artillery around our village. No one dared to go out, and I couldn't get to a clinic or hospital. The villagers who were inside the monastery helped to stop the bleeding. It was only the following day that I was able to go to the hospital. Judging from my injuries, I knew how serious it was, and I cried, knowing I might not walk again like before. Seeing me crying, my wife was saddened and she also wept. Apart from feeling heartbroken about my legs, I was also worried about the medical expenses. I knew going to the hospital would require a lot of money, and we didn't have any savings. My wife went to her relatives to borrow money, which we used to go to the hospital. When we reached the hospital, the doctors told us that they would have to amputate my left leg, and my right leg was broken. Hearing the news, my wife fainted. Although I knew my injuries were serious, hearing from the doctor about the amputation, I cried bitterly and wished I had died instead. I had to be operated on 3 times, and the doctors amputated my left leg. I couldn't eat or sleep because I kept thinking that without my leg, I could no longer work in the field like before. My wife's health was getting worse again as she was saddened to see me depressed. While I was hospitalized, my wife unfortunately had to be treated as well, and we had to spend the money we had borrowed from the relatives. We were at a loss what to do, or I should say, how to survive. It may be that I still had some luck because the village leaders connected us with an organization that is giving assistance to explosive ordnance victims, and I received 500,000 kyat. I am glad I could use this money to pay for the medical expenses. I want to say thank you to the donor for helping people like us during this difficult time. I know it is not easy to borrow even 10,000 kyat since everyone is having a hard time. I can't believe I received 500,000 kyat. I still haven't been discharged from the hospital yet, and the doctor said I still have to have another operation. This assistance came just at the right time. I sincerely hope that no one will have to go through what I did and become disabled like me. I hope we can stay in a safe place where we won't be exposed to explosive ordnance, and that we can have explosive ordnance risk education awareness for the community. Thank you all for giving me a glimpse of hope during my darkest time.
Today we're joined by Webster, the nationwide campaign coordinator for Mine Free Myanmar. Together with his wife, who manages the organization's data, Webster has been at the heart of efforts to bring attention to one of Myanmar's most devastating but often hidden crises. This is the widespread use of anti-personnel mines. In a country that lacks a national mine authority and where conflict has left entire communities at risk, Mine Free Myanmar has turned to innovative, people-centered strategies to raise awareness and build solidarity. One of their most powerful initiatives is a nationwide art contest, which we'll be talking about in the interview that follows, and is now in its third edition. And this invites children, youth, and adults to express through creativity what landmines mean in their daily lives. Alongside this, the organization has also collected dozens of survivor testimonies in northern Shan State, worked with media partners to amplify awareness, and sought to counter the stigma that too often isolates those landmine survivors. Webster has seen firsthand the impact of this art and these stories, and he joins us today to talk about what they reveal, why they matter, and how communities are finding their own ways to push back against the normalization of landmines in Myanmar. So with that introduction, Webster, I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to join us in the conversation that follows.
Thanks for giving us a chance to join with this broadcast from inside Myanmar. Yes, you can know me as Webster. According to the country situations, landmine issues are very vital among rural area and to most people who are injured. Before I take into Mine Free Myanmar, I also work as a development worker in various NGO, and I'm trying to travel a lot with different organizations and to know the area. But after the coup, this landmine issue were very hot issue in the country. And so even though there are many INGO who are supporting the landmine injury of victim or survivor, but there are very few, organizations which advocate about to ban the landmine. Yeah, I network with my friends from Thailand. She introduced me to our advisor, USR. We started working together last year, and as I have mentioned before, that landmine issue is very hot, even though many organizations try to support the landmine victim, but very less often trying to advocate to ban this landmine issue. So I'm very interested in this issue. So I joined Mine Free Myanmar, and we launched the art campaign. When we talk about landmine, and it is, it can be danger to someone who talk about banning landmine or talking about the landmine issue, because according to the high tensions of the armed conflict in the country, many armed groups, including SAC, they all are using landmine. So whenever we talk about this, we have to stay behind this. And by doing this campaign, it is safe for all people to join the landmine campaign. Because when we talk about this in the area, and for example, if someone is in the northern Shan State and you talk about this, and because there are many armed groups there too, so it's like we are against them, so it's not safe for the people who are talking about this. So by doing online campaign for the artwork, and it is safe, it is the best way for everyone to involve in this campaign. So not only children, but also adult people have suffered from this issue. On the other hand, there are many pets, animal, and cattle which has been killed from landmine. And yeah, the story are very interesting, and we have seen many people join this campaign across the country.
So you reference how you had to take a creative approach given the danger of this issue that you were taking on, and this was danger not just from the side of the SAC, but really from all sides of the conflict who use landmines. And as we've covered in recent episodes, the use of landmines in Myanmar is greater than it's really ever been in the past, just given the nature of this conflict the last number of years. And so you've innovated to look at other ways you can get messaging across that are both less dangerous and more impactful of those that you're trying to reach. One of those is this online art contest that you've done, which not only engages people in being able to take a stab at artwork and bringing out themes from the artwork they produce, but then also allows for all kinds of social media sharing and conversation and engagement in an online setting that I imagine could be a little bit safer. So talk about this online art contest process and project and what you've been doing and how it's gone.
We started this project last year. Actually, this art contest has been started since 2023, but I have not got a chance to join in 2023. So I joined in this program started from last year, and it is very interesting that not only kids but also old people are very interesting to express their feeling through art, and it is the best and the safe way for many people to join this issue. Last year activities, they are people from different state and different region joins in this art campaign, and their stories are very interesting. The prize winner of last year, like from Rakhine State, the artist draw a young boy playing football, and he hit with the landmine near the signboard of the village entrance. So it is very attractive to most judges of our art contest, and he won the prize there. This is the reality, what is happening in the ground level. Many children get hit by this, and many people or villagers get hit by the landmine, and this is terrible their life. It also kill some people to some extent. But on the other hand, when landmine survivor they are injured from this issue, like they don't want to even survive because they feel that they are extra family member in their family because they cannot do or cannot help to their family, like to earn money and to work for the family. Like they feel depressed. This is their depressions, and they feel very bad. This landmine, and many artists and many people who are involved in the art campaign, they try to express their feeling. Sometimes they try to express about their village. They try to express their family member, and it is very interesting story. There are a lot there. Another examples story show that one guy from Rakhine State, he is an IDP. He moved to Thailand. I think. He won the first prize, and he mentioned in his artwork like two young boy and girls just standing and watching other kids are playing in the playground, and like they have lost their life, even though in reality they are still alive. They feel that they lost their life. because they couldn't play like other people, like other children playing around the camp, playing around the village. So it is very emotional drawing that have won the first prize of last year. Thank you.
I can imagine, and I'm particularly curious about what you've seen from collectively from the artwork of children. I'm thinking of this two sets of artwork that I've been exposed to that children have produced in the most difficult and horrible of situations. I remember in 2008, Cyclone Nargis, when it hit Myanmar, there was a friend of mine who was helping the children survivors of that terrible cyclone and was doing it through drawing, was having the children be able to produce drawings of what an art of what that experience was like. Obviously horrifying. I mean, these were children that had barely escaped death, where in many cases most or all of their family or village was gone. And so having them produce artwork from this horrific experience was quite impactful, also dark, and quite hard to be able to look at that window through that harrowing experience. The other one that stands out is I once took a visit to Terezin in Czech Republic, which is a Nazi concentration camp. And this was a Nazi concentration camp especially for children, and so it did produce a number of drawings from the children that exist to this day that you can see, and also was this kind of horrific window into this terrible experience of those that had survived and many that who hadn't, but their artwork stayed with us. So these are two very extreme examples that will forever stick out in my mind of artwork that children produced that gives this kind of window or portal to this really dramatic experience that, as you've said, words sometimes can't express.
Yes, children are more creative and they are talented in to illustrate about their village or about their family members. Let me share you the second prize winner from youth category. She is from Tanintharyi and she illustrates a series of artwork. In that artwork, it showed that the village people understand the landmine awareness, and then they also have received some of the awareness training from the village, even though they have aware of the issues. And in the illustration, some people still get hit by the landmine because according to the nature of our country, many villagers, they are trying to collect mushroom, bamboo shoot from the forest, and some vegetables and other like they are catching fish and they collect firewoods. And yeah, it is very creative and they have a very, how can I say, insight knowledge about their village and about their stories, and they express through arts. And the difference from the natural disaster, because this landmine is not the natural disaster. This is a man-made disaster, and it is very dangerous for every people who go around there, because landmine can be everywhere in the country because of the armed conflict, high tensions in the country. Yeah, because armed group is not only one group. For example, in northern Shan State, there are many armed groups. So it is very dangerous to go around their camps and to go around the SAC camp and whatever. Sometimes it's also happened from my perspective, because we have heard a lot of local news that talking about landmine issue, because some were happened before the 1027 attack, some happened after the 1022 attack. But according to the landmine monitor report, last year it was the highest rate by comparing to the other countries and the global issue. After for example, in the story that I have read, that again they move away from the conflict area, and he just came back from the IDP camp and to his village, to his house, but there are a lot of pushes and he has to clean the compound of his house. But in his own house, he hit by the landmine, because after the conflict, armed groups and SAC, they land the landmine a lot. How can I say, around the areas, and it is very dangerous for many people to go to their old place after the conflict, even though the conflict is end.
So you recently referenced in your earlier answer a sense of landmine survivors having difficulty in overcoming from depression, and this stems from feeling that they're a burden on their household, on the village, because they have, as they're missing a limb, they are able to do less to be able to support themselves, and this then feeds into self-confidence and other types of issues. We've also talked before in these episodes about how sometimes it's determined to be bad karma by those Buddhists that interpret the fate of stepping on a landmine, or just someone being unlucky or inauspicious, that others may not want to so much come into contact with fear that they'll also take on that bad luck, one can say. So there's all these different stigmas that are impacting those landmine survivors in looking at their well-being, their mental health, their reintegration into society, their acceptance, everything else. From your experience and seeing some of this discrimination and this bias up close, what are your thoughts as to how there may be more support for people's dignity and agency that have been impacted? Are there some positive stories you can tell of an individual who is perhaps going through a difficult time after surviving in the treatment rehabilitation process, that eventually came out of this and was really able to do something very fulfilling, and to be able to improve, and to really feel a turnaround? Is there a story like that you can tell as well as looking into what are the issues of from those that are continuing to be stigmatized?
Yes, there are a lot of stories. Maybe most of the story is about difficult to survive. It's talking about it's difficult to survive, because according to the impact story that we have collected from Northern Shan State, many stories show that some agency or NGO or INGO, they help to some extent, but after the medical care, they still need for their personal care, and they also need to survive. Before hitting the landmine, life in Myanmar has already been difficult. After hitting landmine and they lost their leg and arms and their organs, it's more difficult for them to survive, because many people are they are casual labor, they are daily wages, they have to go and cut the sugar cane and to collect the firewood, and they have to raise their cattle, and they have to go to their farm. All these are the reason why they hit the landmine, because as I have mentioned before, landmines, many groups use this landmine, and they don't even highlight about the landmine issue after the conflict. But many villagers have suffer from this issue. Another story that I have collected is that a person, he is already an IDP person. He moved from far away from his village and to work near the like the township, one township. Even though he worked and as a daily wages, he couldn't earn much. But hit by step on the landmine, he lost his leg, and now it is even hard for him to survive. At the time, other villagers have to help him a little bit for his food and for his survival. So he also feels depression, and he also feel like he is an extra person in his family or in his village. Before this issue, he could, help the village activity, like a religious activity or other community activity. But after this happened to him and he lost his leg, it's troubled his life, and he couldn't even think of himself. That sometimes he mentioned that he doesn't want to survive and he want to he want to end this life. Yeah, there are many agency helping in landmine issue, but their process is very it's not easy for villagers, because many agency, they have targeted number, they have targeted area, and they are very strict, and strict rules and in the organization. So to help these people when there is rules and strict rules in the organizations, it couldn't help them in a faster way. But the survivor need in urgence. Most of the impact story that we have collected, they also ask help, like prosthetic leg or arm and other medical care, even though they cannot walk very well like as a normal person. Some, if they have prosthetic leg and arms, they could walk like other people. Even though they cannot earn much, they can earn to some extent to save their family and to save their life. As for our Mine Free Myanmar, we only have collected 50 stories from northern Shan State. We aim to collect more story, but according to the budget limitation, we could collect only 50 story. On the other hand, money inflation in the country right highs, and then petrol, fuel, gas fee are very high during the conflict. We expect to collect impact story from 10 township from northern Shan State, but we have to leave some township because of the SAC airstrike mostly every day in northern Shan State. So it's not safe for our volunteer to go and collect the impact story. So another story is a woman. She go to take water, to carry water, because in northern Shan State, in some villages, water resources are pretty far from the village. So, for example, a village are uphill and water resource is downhill. So you have to go downhill to take water. So a woman go there to take the water, but he hit with the landmine and she lost her leg. And then after a few months, her husband left her because she was disabled. So this is a very tragedy story, and it is very emotional things for a person to go and collect and to hear those things in the ground level. Yes, there are a lot of stories like this. It's very interesting.
And you also reference this experience of second-degree trauma and third-degree trauma, where those that are human rights defenders or involved in some kind of atrocity documentation, or not themselves directly facing the conflict, but speaking to and seeing the results of many who have, that can be seriously disruptive in, one's mental well-being, being able to sleep, being able to rest, and these images and stories kind of staying with you. And so how have you personally and your team and colleagues, how do you look after the need to cope yourselves and to be able to maintain your own mental balance to continue doing the work when you are just hearing one really awful story after another?
Yes, after hearing those story, my wife want to, how can I say, to donate those survivor. We also trying to apply many proposal to different agencies for this issue, but we fail for that. So this is very bad for my wife too. So it is, how can I say, sometimes, even we have the heart, we want to help them, we want to help them to some extent, but we couldn't do that, and we also like have to manage our mental health. We also have to link with the our Buddhist philosophy, like every humans are being suffer from something. We are also suffering from something, even though we are not hit by landmine. But this landmine is it's worse than what we think, because for example, we are talking about this and we are not really the survivor. But for those who survive for this, totally devastating. It's totally, they have great depression for their life. Yeah, not only as after we collect the story, but also from our volunteers, they also mention us that they also know about the landmine to some extent, the issue, but they don't even know that there will be a lot of landmine survivor in the community in northern Shan State. She was surprised, our volunteer, she was surprised after collecting the data because she said there are still many other left in the community because of the 1027 attack in northern Shan State. It wasn't the community, it wasn't the situation, and for most people. For some issue and for some cases, it's not in the village. It's also happened in the township. For example, a guy, he trying to pick up plastic and to sell those plastic bottles for his survivor in the town, but he hit with the landmine. This has happened in the town in Asho Township. So by hearing this kind of story, and it is, how can I say, so it is not safe for many people, because whenever there is armed conflict in the area, and it is sure that there is landmine. There may be more landmine around their area, around their camps, around the armed group camps or SAC, whatever their camps. It is very dangerous. So by working on this issue, and we started to realize that, okay, one day we are not sure that whether we will land on the landmine or not, because according to conflict situation in the country, SAC landmine around the telephone tower, around their camps, around their gas pipeline, mostly everywhere they think it is will make them safe. So on the other hand, ethnic armed group also lay landmine, because some people send us about the landmine hit to 3 generations from Kaya State in this for this year art competition. He's one of the competitor, and he mentioned that his grandfather and a son and a grandson hit by landmine. Maybe his son is working in the armed group, but he hit by landmine not because he attacked the SAC, because he just went in a village and he tried to close the door of a house from a village and he hit by a landmine. So we have to raise these voice to the international organizations, because this, if outsider doesn't come and help in this issue, this will cause a lot of problem, and they also have to help the survivor forever in the country. For some places, even though they are victim or survivor of the landmine, they couldn't reach to the international organization because of the internet connection and phone connection around the conflict area. So those survivors cannot reach and cannot ask for help for many agencies. So this is a terrible situation, what is happening in the country.
I want to go back to one thing you just said in your extended response, and that's when you were speaking about the universal Buddhist truth, yourself being a Buddhist, the Four Noble Truths, and the first of these truths being the profound Buddhist insight of there is suffering in the world. There is the existence of suffering. And so it's really interesting that when you're looking at how you yourself are trying to cope with this second and third degree trauma, that you fall back on this religious or spiritual teaching of the universality of suffering. Yes, there are extremes, there are far extremes, but there is this inherent, if you believe in, follow the Buddhist teachings, inherent in this mind-body connection as we come into the world, is the existence of suffering, and that suffering is going to happen, and there's a way to look into the depth of the existence of suffering and to understand it, and through that understanding to be able to transcend. This is the essence of many of the Buddhist teachings that follow. Certainly, as you say, this what the suffering that would go through with landmine victims, it's of an order that is so far beyond the suffering that many of us living, we could say, somewhat normal lives have not experienced something on that scale. But it's very interesting to hear your response as to that you're able to take solace and to find your own mental balance by reflecting and meditating and practicing on this universality of suffering and going deeper into the experience of suffering as a way of exploration rather than avoidance, or distraction, which is what so many of us do in the world. Of course, craving, aversion, ignorance, as the Buddha spoke about.
Yeah, according to my point of view, it is also important that those survivors should aware about the Buddhist philosophy and about the suffering, so it can cure them to some extent, or else they will feel more suffering in their lifetime. So when we talk about suffering, yes, of course, according to the Buddhist philosophy, we all are not free from suffering. But it is important that how to handle on this issue. According to the philosophy, we have to balance both the mental health and physical health to obtain like the goal for many Buddhists, like Nibbana. So lives go on and go round and go around until we attain Nibbana. But before we attain this, or else if we don't try to attain this, we will suffer this kind of issue, not in this era, but the coming era. Or if we don't talk about the landmine, long time ago, people also suffer from civil war, like from a night and stone like ancient times, they are also suffering about this kind of issue. So these also depend on the people greed. They try to obtain physical things. This happen because of this. So I am not against not to ban landmine. It is also important that to ban the weapon, not only the landmine, but to start a small step. We have to make sure that even though after the conflict, many people must be free from suffering from this kind of explosion, especially landmine. Because according to our story, even though the conflict ends in some area, we still heard about the landmine issue happen to the civilians. As a people, they have the right to survive freely. But they cannot survive freely. Whenever they feel hunger, they have to go to the forest, they have to collect a mushroom, they have to collect a bamboo shoot. Some people, they have to collect firewood for their survival. So all these people, according to our impact story, they hit the landmine and they don't even have the right. So when we connect with this issue and connect about this issue to the suffering, for those people who don't even know the deep aspect of the Buddhist philosophy, they may think that Buddha is just like other religion, and so it is hard for them to overcome the stigma of landmine, and it is also hard for them to overcome the life suffering. But for someone who understands Buddhist philosophy, so it is okay to overcome this kind of stigma. Even though our country, many people practice Buddhism, but many people don't even know the deep profound of the inside of the Dhamma. So that's also another problem for people to overcome their mental illness. In my point of view, there is not only karma, because we cannot blame this is because of karma, because of bad luck. This is because of the, how can I say, civil war situations. These war situations make those people worsen. So it is also important for international organization to force to the military government to stop fighting, to stop this civil war. So this is what we can do by saying bad luck. So people are creating civil war and they say that it is bad luck, and it is not true in Buddhist philosophy. This is my point of view. Because according to the story of the Buddha, that he also suffered from hunger for about 3 months. He has to eat some beans that feed horses from merchants. Yeah, that is the story from the Buddha. So when we talk about this issue, it is not about the bad luck that the Buddha have suffered from this issue, because of the disaster. When we talk about the disaster, there will be natural disaster and human-made disaster. This is human-made disaster, not only because of the bad luck. Like earthquake hit Myanmar recently, so some people will think that this is bad luck. No, this is not a bad luck. This is because of the disaster. So disaster, you cannot control it. We cannot control it. But human-made, this is human-made wall. Because of this wall, they laid landmine around their camps, around their area to make them safe. And after they left their camp, those landmines are still there and it killed the community, the villagers. So in my thinking, this is totally not a bad luck. This is because of man-made disaster.
Right. And going off that man-made disaster, you reference how after Operation 1027 that there were there was a vast increase in the landmines that were laid, landmine victims, landmine survivors. You've talked about your work in northern Shan State. To be clear, are you able to share, do you know the answer to the circumstances around which all these landmines were laid as a result of 1027?
It is very complicated and it is hard to explain about this issue. According to our impact story, some survivors said it is because of SAC, some survivors said because of this active armed group. Because active armed group, they also want to sustain their territory, so they also fight with each other. Two active armed groups fighting each other. Some story we have seen that ethnic two groups are fighting each other and they lay landmine around the village, and most villagers they hit with the landmine. Because there are many armed groups and it is hard to say that this is because of who, because of SAC, but it is obvious that SAC laid landmine. Armed groups also laid landmine, but we don't have the research that who laid the landmine numerous in the areas. It is also depend on the armed groups and SAC. On the other hand, they don't even talk about the landmine that they have laid after the incident happened around the areas. When we asked the ethnic group, they were blamed to SAC. SAC people were blamed to ethnic armed group. For example, we launched the art contents on our Facebook page, and there are some few comments who blame ethnic group, and other also blame the SAC. So by seeing those kind of comment on our art contents, so there are people who stand for the SAC, who stand for ethnic armed groups. But this is not important. The important thing is those organizations, ethnic armed group or SAC, they must take the responsible for what they have done in their community. But in reality, no one talk about this landmine. But landmine still keep explode in the country mostly every day, according to the local news. Some local news, we have seen that they killed 1 to 2%. Some are vehicle mine, it killed to dozens of people, and it is very bad for the civilians in the country.
Earlier, you also spoke about the difficulties of reintegrating into society based on the depression that many landmine survivors face, a feeling that they are a burden, they're no longer able to contribute, they don't have fulfillment in being a part of society in the way that they used to. Have you seen some kind of common best practices that seem to work as to what can support the reintegration? I know that every person, every context is different, but are there general features or general lessons where if certain things are happening in the context of that individual, that has a better chance of putting them back in a better place and supporting the reintegration? And what are those best practices that you would reference in your experience that can help those individuals to get out of those bad mental states that they're in, even with their extreme physical challenges, and move on towards leading a more fulfilling and productive life?
The best way is to end the conflict, but it will not be easy, as many people understand these situations. It's not an easy job. Conflict will happen and will happen not because of this issue, but in the future, there will be still many armed conflicts according to the situations. But every armed groups should not lay the landmine, because this landmine impact not only the civilian but also to their own soldier too. The best way to avoid this kind of situation is many agency or international organization should advocate to those armed groups and to SAC not to lay landmine. Because we cannot say you should not attack. But after finish the attacking, many civilians are not safe from landmines. Because landmine can be still explode after several years. We also have a exchange talk from Vietnam and from Tajikistan that after the civil war that they still suffer from landmine. So it is pretty terrible. In my point of view, the armed conflict is still in the process. How can I say? The armed conflict is still is going on. So we cannot expect this landmine will end very soon. But by launch our art contact to talk about the impact story of the landmine, many civilians will take attention to this issue, and we hope to some extent this will reach to the armed groups and to stop landmine one day. So this is a small amount of effort that we can do, but this is our visions. So we can still expect about this issue will happen in the future. Right now, armed conflict still going on, but after the conflict, people or civilian will still suffer from the landmine. But by raising awareness from the current situations, these knowledge, these impact story that we are sharing or advocating from the social media will reach to some extent for civilian knowledge, so that after the conflict ends, we can expect to remove those landmines. We can expect many people will free from the landmine. Because without this knowledge or this suffering, people will be very careless. So by advocating about the impact story on the social platform, people will be aware about this and they will be more careful about the landmine.
I totally understand your answer that the best way to support future potential landmine victims and survivors is to have less landmines, and to have less landmines, to have less conflict, and to have the support of the international community. Those are very solid and good ideas, and I very much hope that they would happen. Although, you know, the way things have been going, they don't look so good for that direction. So given the reality that we are facing, the reality that there are many undetonated landmines that exist throughout the country, and that more are being laid every day as the conflict is intensifying, given that that is the reality, And when there are survivors that then are go through these extraordinary emotional, psychological, physical, mental, etc. Difficulties that they're trying to overcome, given that is the reality, what best practices do you describe as to how a survivor can be supported in reintegrating back into a life that was once lost and to be able to find that fulfillment again?
Survivor should take care of their mental health and also their physical health too, to overcome this issue. To overcome with the mental state, one must understand how our body is formed, how our mental awareness is working as a human. So this is a very basic things in Buddhist philosophy. On the other hand, by taking care of physical health, so if we are healthy, we are happy, even though we don't have much wealth in our life. So this is also important for physical situations. But after the 1027 attack and after the coup, it is terrible for most civilians in the country to survive. Because goods are very expensive in the country because of the money inflation. And then many people have tried to survive from this issue. For example, petrol prices are not the same from dry zone area like from Naypyidaw or Yangon and from hill region or from rural areas. So gas petrol prices are very high in conflict area. Not only the petrol, but also other kind of food that we eat every day, like rice and other curry. So to overcome this situation, those survivors need to have steady income. Nowadays in the country, according to the conflict, it is hard for everyone to find a job to survive. For those survivors, it is more hard for them to find a job. It's not easy. Before hitting the landmine, they are like daily wages, casual labor. They work for daily for survive. So by losing their hands or their legs, it's very difficult for them to survive. So it is important for international organizations should help them too, because there are many international organization or local organization in the country, but many of them, they don't have like a strategy or plans or for those survivors. International organization, they may help to those survivors to some extent to get prosthetic leg or arm, but after this, they also need to survive. So it is important them to help those survivors by organizing vocational training for their survivor, or arrange a lot of psychosocial support for them, not only by Buddhist way, but by other way that can cure them. So it is very important according to the situation in the country. Because normal people, even though they want to help, they don't have budget to help or to create this kind of these things. But for international organization, they have enough budget or funding to do this kind of thing. So it is also important outsider to advocate to international organizations to create opportunities, job opportunities, and other vocational training for those survivors.
And another focus of your project is this explosive ordnance risk education. So how does Mine Free Myanmar use the art contest as well as other outreach tools you do to educate people about the safety and risk mitigation? Can you go into some of those details?
Yes, we also launched an online quiz program that talking about landmine survivor issue. Some are about rules and law about disabled people, because some people in the country, they don't even aware there are disabled rights in the country. But after this coup, those rights has been dismissed. I think this is my opinion, because we don't see other organizations from government side that are helping those survivors. So from SAC side, they just see those survivors as a, how can I say, armed group size. So they see as an enemy to those survivors, and they don't help to those survivors. So we try to emphasize on those law from our advisor, Webster. Those online quiz program are to raise awareness about the rights of the disabled, and also about some are landmine risk awareness. For example, landmine can be underground for many years, so it can explode anytime, whenever touches. So many people, they just know about the landmine from the movie. So when we step on the landmine, it's in the movie it showed that it doesn't explode immediately, but in reality, it explodes immediately. So we have to highlight those kind of issue on the online.
This communication strategy that you've done, it's innovative both to raising awareness and promoting solidarity, given the major access barriers for many Myanmar communities. So I'm curious about how do you at Mine Free Myanmar, how do you leverage social media to extend reach for these kinds of messages that you're trying to get out there? And what do you do about the digital divide in terms of those people who do not have internet access that you're also trying to impact and speak to?
We share about banning landmine video through social medias, and we also share the videos, the banning video to the local media's news agency. So for many people, they are watching local news agency, and so we can reach to many civilians by sharing the banning mine videos to the news agency to some extent. For those who not accessing the internet connections, so it is very difficult from our side too. But we can also network with the focal person to the area so that he can share why he is having the connections, the internet connection. So we make a poster about the art contents, and they can save it and they can share to their area to some extent. But it is still in low level. We have to try to advocate more for those who doesn't have internet connection area. On the other hand, when talking about risk education on the online, but for the person who doesn't have internet connection, won't be able to participate in that activity, because some questions are raised on the online and they have to answer. But for this art content competition, they can still compete while they are having internet connection. So we launched the art content since April, and the due date will be coming September 21st. So they have like about 6 months. They still have time for that, and they can submit their artwork. For some people, to talk about last year experience, like a winner from last year, he compete the art competition and he win the prize. I think it was an honorable prize from judges. But we couldn't connect him because of he is in conflict area and he is not accessing internet all the time. But later, early in this year, we can connect him and he received a message that he win a prize. So there is another story that won a prize and we still can connect until now, because we don't know what happened to him or her, whether he lost it or not. Because some people, they just save the poster and they competed, and they will check whenever they have the internet connection. Because many people, they go and travel from places to places. Some places will be easy for them to access the connections. Yes, last year there is a guy who win a prize and he cannot connect to it until now. So that is terrible. We don't know what happened to him, because armed conflict happened and many civilians dies every day because of the airstrike, because of the gun, because of the bomb, because of the landmine. Maybe he could be one of them. We want to ban the landmine for the civilian security in the future. If we don't talk about banning landmine, many people will still, many armed groups, many soldiers will still lay the landmine around their area. So this can trouble most civilian in the future. So banning landmine is to highlight about the impact that wasn't the community, so that people who see the video, they can stop. Someone can stop using landmine, and some people may be late fuse landmine in the future after seeing the video. We don't have direct connection with the artwork, but this has a small link, I think. By seeing the video, for the civilian, even though they are not soldiers, they will interest to check our Facebook page and our website, so that they will see the art context and they were eager to compete or participate in the art competition. This is maybe another strategy or the way of promoting our artwork. But doing landmine video is not about to promote our artwork, because if we don't talk about banning the landmine, it will be dangerous in the future concerning about landmine issue. There are many local organization or international organization which work on the landmine survivor, but very few and less of them talk about banning landmine. So it is also important to talk about this issue. By helping the survivor, it will never end. So if we don't talk about the banning landmine, we have to support the survivor every decade, every generation. It will never end. So we have to advocate more about banning landmines so that many civilians or soldiers or armed groups or from SAC side, at least if they can reduce one landmine. So I think it is the effective way to advocate about banning landmine.
When we talked a bit about some of the challenges of coping and how you look to do that, and you gave a really quite incredible in-depth answer about this, going deep into the Buddhist teachings for this universality of suffering. But another aspect, in addition to coping, is a question of impartiality. And you mentioned working under conditions of intensifying conflict and ethnic political sensitivities. And so how do you keep the campaign and your overall work neutral while still trying to give space for very personal, yet also political survivor stories and voices?
Yes, we have to be very careful with this issue. As I have mentioned before, it is very dangerous to talk about banning landmine because both SAC side and armed group side can still hate us to talk about banning landmine because we have to stay from the back. We have to hide our name, our profile, and work on this issue. Because by seeing some comments on our Facebook site that they're trying to tickle us that whether we are in the SAC side or from NUG side. So they're trying to figure us like that. So it is important that we have to avoid those kind of messages. We don't reply those kind of messages. We will reply only message if they compete their artwork to our mail. Even though they write a bad message on the Facebook site, it is important and it is very important. We have to stay neutral and we don't step on one side and to talk about this issue because we are talking about banning landmine. We don't say that we are from this side and from that side. So personally, I will be in one side, but it is very important that it's very important. We should be neutral while we reply our comments, while we reply to the artwork competitor. We also have received artwork submission from SAC side. Maybe he is retired. He compete to us. He is according to his mail. He is from Navy Door, and maybe he is a retirement soldier. So by seeing this is one of our achievement. Last year we don't see this kind of message. This year, by staying neutral, by not talking about ethnic group, not talking about the SAC, we just talking about the campaign. We just talking about the banning landmine. So this is one of our achievement that we receive 1% from SAC. We receive one artwork from SAC. So this is very important for us. So maybe long time ago they will be soldier and they laid landmine, and now it's obvious or it is clear that they feel guilty about that. By competing, by talking experience, what they have done in the previous. So this is one of our achievement. Because there are many people, but we have to start by small steps to advocate about banning landmine to SAC2. This is very important, and I think that this is one of our achievement in this year, even though he will win the award of 2025 or not, but we are happy to receive those kind of artwork. So by receiving his artwork, we replying to him naturally that we are not talking about the ethnic armed group. We are not talking about the bad side of the SAC. We are not talking about the bad side of the ethnic armed group, because when there is armed conflict in the area, there is no good person or bad person, because they are killing each other. Their gun, their weapon can kill everyone around the area. So we cannot say that they are good or they are bad. So it is very important for us to be neutral while we are working on this issue. So this is another way to gain trust from both sides.
It's extraordinary that you mention an artwork coming from someone in the SAC. I can understand the level of surprise that you would have as a result of that. Can you share anything about the artwork that was submitted or anything else along with that submission in general?
Yeah, in general, he is talking about his experience why he is in Shan State. He is one of the soldiers from military, and he is talking about the impact of the landmine, about a short story that he hit with a landmine, and like it's also seemed like a love story. So talking about his girl, he couldn't. In that story, he's not talking directly about himself, but he's talking about what he witnessing in the village or in the community. It seems that the story is interesting for him, and it also encouraged him to compete in our artwork.
In addition, looking at your other overall work, you've gone into so many details about the kinds of things that you're doing, but you mentioned that you're displaying these 50 impact stories from Northern Shan State, also including quizzes, videos, and other types of projects and programs you're doing online as well as offline. Is there one initiative in particular you're personally most excited about?
Yeah, I'm more exciting about the impact story, because we can learn a lot about the community when they talk about their impact story. We don't have sufficient enough funding to collect impact story across the country. Actually, we want to collect across the country. According to the budget limitation, we can only collect the impact story from Northern Shan State. But in a coming year or coming future, we are thinking to collect other story from other state or other divisions. So by learning those impact story, so it is important to share those story to different organizations, or we also post our impact story on our Facebook, social media, and it's also seemed like many people are very interested in the impact story, because some story were very interesting and it's very tragedy. We are still running the activity on the process, and we haven't finished posting our activity done yet. We have finished about around 25 story on our Facebook page, and coming day we are going to post another story until we have finished all the story, because it is important to share those issues. By comparing two activity like quiz, the art competition and impact story, yes, the art competition, they can win the prize. This is another strategy to persuade people to participate in the landmine issue. But the impact story is more interesting for most people, because according to the high tension conflict in the country, people can take some lesson and so that they can aware. For example, some story in a village, a mother pick up a landmine and let her children play the landmine, you know. It is very terrible. Her himself don't even know the landmine and she let her children play. They may think that just a door or some kind of toys to play. When they play with that landmine and it directly kill 2 children, 1 children still survive. So this kind of story should be shared to many people so that people can get awareness about the landmine according to the high tension of the armed conflict in the country.
You know, you're dealing with a lot of numbers of survivors, of victims, of how many landmines are laid in a certain area of contamination, et cetera, et cetera. But as these anecdotes and the artwork and the other things that you're doing also bring about, this is about more than numbers. I mean, every number reflects a shattered life, whether it's a survival or not. Every landmine that's planted anywhere in the country represents a danger to destroy more lives. And it's not, as you've been explaining, it's not just the life of the person that, even if they survive the landmine, is impacted, but it's the community, the home, the village, the family around them that it also represents. So every landmine that's laid represents a potential danger for tearing more of this apart. And so, you know, moving beyond the mere numbers and the sheer statistics into what those numbers represent, what does it feel like, you know, to work with those stories, those voices that the numbers are representing, and how do you find the relationship between, you know, the analytical numbers of what you're dealing with and the real lives and voices that you're interacting with?
They will be totally different, because what we have seen is very few of them. Because we don't see a lot of people who are killed by the landmine, because we just collect the impact story who are survived. There are many people who are being killed by the landmine in the community. So it is very important to highlight this issue, not only in the country, but also to the international organization to focus on this issue. Because if we cannot ban the landmine in the future, not in the future, from now, there will be a lot of consequences in the future. In the current situation, there are already a lot landmine in the conflict area and still continue to rise in the future. So even though, like Vietnam, they have stopped their war since they fought with American, they are still suffer from landmine until now. They will suffer coming future too, because we cannot see whether the landmine is laid. And according to the natural disaster in the country, because of the earthquake, because of the flood in the country, landmine move without explode. Because we have seen this has been expressed from, I think, from UN organization. I'm not sure whether it's UNICEF or not. They also mentioned about that landmine move. So landmine also move. Some explosive weapon also move by the flood. So it is very dangerous for people. These landmines can be moved by the natural disaster, and it can move out of the conflict area, and it can also kill outside people who stay from outside conflict zone. So it is very important to highlight this kind of issue and to try to advocate not only the local but also to the international organization to emphasize on the banning landmine advocacy. Thank you.
If you can show one artwork to all of those individuals who lay mines, whether they're from this side or that side, military or non-military, if there was one artwork that you saw that you would like to show them as a think piece, as an advocacy, as a reflection, which artwork have you seen that you think would be most effective for being able to bring to those individuals that are responsible for laying the landmines in the first place?
Many artwork are interesting by its perspective. So it also depends on the community that they came from. So that I as for my side, I would choose an artwork of last year, just a beautiful story, like I have mentioned before, that kids draw. So even though we have the awareness of the landmine, we are still not safe from the landmine. So that is a series of story, like 5 to 6 picture, I think. Yeah, that story will be very interesting to share to both sides. Because even though we know about the landmine, because landmine, it doesn't appear on the land. It disappears on the land. So it is very dangerous for people who go around there. The reason I'm talking about this is by connecting this issue to one of the impact story that a guy from a village, he is visiting another village, but on the road, he want to go toilet, he want to pee, so he just move aside from the road and he just hit with the landmine. So we don't see the landmine. So it is very important to highlight that even though we have the awareness about the landmine, we should not touch, we should not play with it, we should not go and touch it. So that is about only education. In reality, we don't see the landmine because landmine disappear on the land. So wherever, whoever we go there, we can hit with the landmine. So I would like to share a story from youth category, a series of stories that talking about even though villagers know about the landmine risk education, they still suffer from the landmine.
Now, Myanmar is one of the very few countries with landmine contamination, maybe perhaps even the only one, to not have a unified mine authority. And I think anyone who has some background into what has been going on in Myanmar would understand why that's the case. But in the absence of that, as well as of being able to do demining during an active conflict, how would you describe how communities are leading landmine action on their own in the absence of this overriding authority, to say nothing of international support that is not able to come into the country as might happen at a different time, under a different regime, at a different, with a lower level or perhaps no conflict? How are communities leading that landmine action on their own?
According to my experience, those community, they try to inform to some ethnic armed group, because some ethnic armed group, they know the place where they live, and yeah, this is the best way for them to tell to the armed group and to remove those landmines. But as far as I see the issue in the community level, so even though there are many local NGOs and INGOs that are doing landmine risk education, but the community still suffer. But some organization, they manage to establish like communication mechanism in the village, that when someone hit with landmine, they should call this phone number or this ambulance, like a connection in local level. So this is good to some extent. But many villagers, they are casual labor and they have to go for work. They have to go in their farm. If they are in the village, they have to go and collect like mushroom, bamboo shoot, and firewood in the forest. So whoever go there, they hit with a landmine. So in community level, it is not easy for them to avoid the landmine because many villagers, they don't know whether this is how can I say, armed group. This place is armed group or camp or not, because they used to lay landmine around their camp. After they are moving, they don't go to the place where they lay landmine and they just leave the places. So it is like for the villagers or for the cattle or pet animals in the village. So it is very difficult for the community level to avoid this landmine issue. Yeah, because there are also recently from the local news that I have heard that is vehicle mine. The villager, they are going to from village to village for working in the farm. So one step with on the vehicle mine, it is assumed that it is vehicle mine because it is in beside the road. It when after the villager hear about the landmine explosive, so many villagers came to save those three ladies. I think, yeah, it's still kill a 15 years old boy who come to save them. So in that accident, it also kill one person and injury about 20 persons. So this is talking about the mine that lay on the ground. So people cannot avoid this kind of incident as long as they go from place to place, as long as they are working in their farm. So it is very dangerous for them. But the best way to avoid this, in my opinion, is that they must advocate the ethnic armed group or the SAC for both sides. They have to advocate not to lay the landmine so that they can survive freely after there is no conflict. I also want to encourage national, international organizations to focus on advocacy and to talk about banning landmine and to make it happen in reality, to ban this landmine from Myanmar people. Thank you. For local people, it is easy for them to understand what we are talking about. But for international people, it will be hard for them to understand the conflict and situation in the country because it is very complicated and because there are many armed groups conflicts and also religious conflict in the country. So it is very complicated and it is very important for international organization to support on the landmine issue, to ban the landmine issue. It is very important to make sure that this landmine end in the coming years. The reason I am talking about this is because of many civilians are being killed by landmine in the country because the news will not show in the international news, but in local news, we can see reason and a lot of accident happen in the conflict area or not conflict area. These are like usual things in the country, and this wasn't the situation in the country, even though the conflict is seem like end to some places. Thank you.
Landmines buried deep in the ground. Silent threats, they make no sound. Harming humans, animals too. A danger hidden from our view. Landmines, a hidden danger, causing pain, turning lives to strangers. We must learn, we must teach, to keep our loved ones out of reach. Innocent lives they take away, leaving scars everywhere to stay.
Many of you know that in addition to running the Insight Myanmar podcast platform, we also administer a nonprofit, Better Burma, to respond to the terror that the Burmese military has been inflicting on the country and its people. We encourage listeners to check out our website's regularly updated humanitarian blog to see the work that Better Burma has been carrying out, along with the upcoming projects we are hoping to support. Right now, as I'm sure you all know, and today's interview only reinforced, that need is still overwhelming. Your donations go directly to supporting vulnerable communities who need it most, and any donation, regardless of size, is so greatly appreciated. Check out insightmyanmar.org/donation to learn how to give.
Free, and break these deadly chains. Let the world, let's unite to make our world safe and bright. Landmines, we must fight for a future that's free and right. Together we can fight to make the world safe and bright. No more landmines in sight, let's end the silent plight.
Yaranangaya unyana dadu ya dalam biar digane zat mana wigara besayana besayo. Oba yarananda da yarananga yaranaya da yaranampoda da yaranam.